What is going on, YouTube universe? Welcome to the Hip and Shoulder, where we discuss everything Australian rules football, and today our attention turns to SuperCoach once more, revealing my team for round 2, talking about the moves I'm going to make for round 3, but ultimately kicking off with my overall score and positioning so far. For round 2, I scored 1917, which has me placed in the top 4% of coaches for the round, which I'm absolutely stoked with. If it wasn't for my captain choice, I would have scored a hell of a lot less. 4,217 is my total score, which puts me in the top 3% in that specific statistic, and overall for season rank, 5,695. My highest season rank to date, and I am looking to make some moves over the next 2 weeks that should solidify myself climbing up that ladder. So without further ado, let's dive into the team that took to the field, talk about how we went, and then talk about the moves I'm going to make for round 3. And this is the team, ladies and gentlemen, the team that took to the field for round 2, kicking off with Jack Sinclair, 118, 128 average. I said at the start of the season, not just on this platform, but on social media as well, replying to different tweets and Facebook posts, that I thought Nasiah Wanganeen-Malira was going to be a trap. And if he was going to get more midfield time, Jack Sinclair was the one you should jump on, because he'll be the one taking the kick-ins. He'll be the one that they use as an outlet off of halfback. And that's exactly what has gone down in the opening 3 weeks. So at least I dodged a bullet with Naz by locking in Sinclair. I know some other people didn't kind of go down that route, unfortunately, but there is still time yet, because Connor Rozee scored a 55 and tore his hamstring clean off the bone. He is set to miss 3 months of football, 12 weeks. We're not going to see him again until the mid-season buys. Will he be worth picking up around that time? I don't know, but if you're looking to bring somebody in, Jack Sinclair could be an early pivot. Josh Dacos obviously had the bye last week, so we didn't get any score for him. Lockie Jark's got a 70. I'm happy with his role. He should keep his spot within that team. Same with Selwood. They're scoring, 60, 70, 80 points. I'm happy to take that. The one I'm a little bit concerned with is Jai Sarong. He is getting plenty of time off the wing. He's getting some midfield exposure. He had a great opening round, but we haven't seen the same output since then. He's still going to make us plenty of money. I'm just worried that the output versus the role is kind of going to throw us off a little bit here, and he might not make as much as what we were expecting unless he turns things around in a big way. Josh Lindsay got dropped and could be one that I pivot with this week, which I know is crazy. I know it's a ludicrous thought that a one player getting dropped, he's only played 1 game, why would you get rid of him? I'm concerned that players that have had more exposure to the game, the senior players that have come in to take those roles, have pushed him out, and he's not going to push those senior players back out again. So could be one that's left in limbo for quite a while, and with Dirksen already on the bench for me, I don't need 2 defenders not playing. So I will happily move him on this week as part of my plans, and if I correctly move my plans around for the next 2 weeks, we're going to have some big ins. So I'm very excited about getting that to work. Zach Butters scored 135, averaging the 114. He started very slow in this game, and I was concerned, but he just came home like a house on fire. Touk Miller, 116, averaging 113. He's a player who, without fail, if you look at somebody that you need to get at least 100 points, Touk Miller seems to do it every week. I'm so glad I took the chance on him over Goulden, because obviously Goulden doing his injury that he's gone and done. But the best thing about Touk Miller is he's got 55% playing time forward, and after round 5, any player that has played over 35% in a given role can get DPP, which means Touk Miller could be getting forward DPP. And although he is now a pod for myself, I feel as a forward option, because we don't have any genuine high scorers yet in that forward line sustainably, Touk Miller's stocks are going to rise, and I hate that fact, but I love that I started him and I avoided having to burn a trade early on Goulden. Luke Davies-Uniacke, 118, averaging 111. Again, another one that I faded Bontempelli for this guy, and I hate that I did. But plans will come accordingly in the next couple of weeks to get Bontempelli in. So having Davies Uniacke there, he could be an M8 by the end of the year. And pumping out an average of 111 as an M8, I am absolutely stoked. Grill only got a 43. The role is still there for him, especially with the injuries that we have now had to Nankervis and Lynch. We're not going to be looking at bringing in more defenders. It's going to be forwards, a ruck. So Grill still getting plenty of the ball. He just needs to have some backup behind him. He loves to take the game on. He gets clean possession, but he just needs to get it into his hands. He's a slow burn, I feel, but I'm happy to keep him around. Jack Carroll, 44. Again, the role is there. They brought Stocker in last week and he kept his spot. So that tells me that he's at least still in contention ahead of Stocker. So a Hunter Clark, I don't think pushes him out. But we're going to talk about Carroll a little bit later on when it comes to trades, because I've got a list of some players with their break-evens and the money they're going to make to kind of look at who we're going to start potentially looking at over the next couple of weeks to maybe consider moving on. Carroll might be on the chopping block. Sharp is definitely gone this week for me. Averaging 35.5, only scored the 14. He did get injured. He might be cleared of injury, but I don't trust it. Unfortunately, when it comes to Essendon rookies, they fail to deliver. I've learnt the hard way. But we're going to make a little bit of bank by bringing in somebody cheap. Jugger Smith obviously didn't play, had the bye. Blameyers with a 79. Very happy with his output. He is set to make us a lot of money, this kid. Nick Dacos obviously didn't play, Sam Walsh didn't play, and Tanner Brun didn't play. My captain, Tristan Cherry, 199 points. Thank you very much. If I had captained anyone else, there is no way near the fact that I would have gotten the score that I got or made the moves up the ladder that I did. So happy I rolled the dice with 2 premium rucks. A lot of people went with McAndrew in R2 and 1 premium ruck, but my combination of Cherry and English, couldn't be happier. Would I prefer maybe a Gorn given his output? Maybe, but I can't be angry with a bloke who's averaging 160 and then English who comes out and scores 114 who's averaging 119. Thank you very much. ZZ Top obviously didn't play, but I love the fact that he has that defensive swap, because when it comes to making some moves and getting in Primo in the flex, him moving up, McAndrew moving to R3, it's going to be good. Sheasel came out and banged out another big score for us, 124, averaging 129. Lord knows how he's only 70% odd owned. He should be in 100% of teams. Petracca, hamstring, 4 to 6 weeks. If it was only 2 to 4, I might have kept him on the bench, but he's going to be a stepping stone for me over the next couple of weeks, and I'm happy to bring in who I'm bringing in. But I mean, 86 up until half time, he was going to push for a huge score as well. A little bit upset that he went down given our lack of forward premiums, but alas, shit like this does happen. Flanders with an 81, averaging the 87. Look, he's not giving us the numbers that we were hoping for, but given the scarcity of decent scorers up forward, Flanders is one that you're keeping in your forward line. Buderick, very much the same. Should be getting defensive DPP as well, so we could be looking at moving him defensively, but given the way he's scoring, probably keep him up forward. Marshall with a 73, again, the role is there. He doesn't have anybody competing for it. He just needs to stay fit. If he keeps averaging the 80 odd, same with Buderick, we can keep these guys in our forward line for a while yet. Dev Robinson averaging 100, 95 score. Could be a keeper in F6. Wild to think of. Philippou with a 42. Not the role we were promised he was going to have. I don't know whether the corky last week influenced him this week. Lombard again, only averaging 48, only scored 20 off of, I think it was 80% game time. He had something like 13 disposals, and he only scored 20. He butchered it bad. I'm considering moving Lombard on next week, and I'll explain in a breakdown momentarily. And McAndrew with a 79 as a flex option, a movement option to R3. Couldn't have asked for better. I'm happy I at least started him in the flex because he's been providing a big enough score to cancel out some of my lower scorers. So again, 1917 was what I scored for the week, and these are the moves obviously that we need to make. Connor Rozee is an interesting prospect for some because some might have him in the flex, some might have him as a midfielder, some might have him as a defender. For myself, I don't have a mid-defensive, well, I do have a mid-defensive swap, so if I wanted to, I could bring somebody in the midfield for Rozee, but that's not what we're doing this week. I've got my eye on someone. As I said, we are going to move Rozee on. We're going to move on Lindsay. We're going to move on Sharp. Those are my 3 trade outs this week. When it comes to Rozee defensively, as I just... my boost is already activated, I think, so we'll just get the 3 up that I'm going to trade. Looking at the options again, obviously, if I just go wanting to select a defender, can I just search by position? Defender, thank you very much. Jack Sinclair, obviously a decent upgrade. Lockie Ash would be a decent upgrade as well. However, both of them have the bye next week, and I don't know whether getting points, guaranteed points on the board this week is enough to quantify them missing the next week, and then you're missing out on those points. Maybe it's worth waiting after their bye to bring them in, because if that was the case, if Lockie Ash was clear until the mid-season buys, he would 100% be the one that I bring in. I foolishly started him last year in round 0 and then faded him, and he came out like a house on fire. I ended up bringing him back in late, ended up burning a trade, and it was so stupid of me to do so. But as for premium top tier, Sinclair and Lockie Ash probably the 2 that you should look at defensively. But again, both have the bye next week, so pick at your behest. Naz might have gotten the 122, but I mean, the average of 91, the role of him getting tagged, he's starting to lose money, and he's going to lose it in a big way, so I don't think bringing him in is smart. Lockie Whitfield not playing to the best of his abilities to start this year off, averaging only the 89, so he's going to hemorrhage some cash, so he'll be great to bring in late. A couple on the board that you could consider. Jaden Short could be a trap, I feel, but he's come out and he's scored 120 odd, and then he's got 104. What's his notes here? Back-to-back 100-plus scores to start the season. 13 marks, and hang on a minute, stop moving, you dickhead, and 33 disposals. We stayed away due to his injury issues, but he is making us consider him as he's the number one. Yeah, he's the number 1 user out of defense for Richmond. So, given the fact that the ball's going to live down there, could be one worth considering for 450k. 555,000. Dane Zorko, again, only 7% owned, but he's popped off it twice, and Brisbane's run for the next 6 to 7 weeks is very tasty. Could be worth considering. I don't know why we're going off of total points. I want to go off of price. Thank you very much. Jordan Clark could be one as well, but I mean, he's scored 119. He scored very average the week before, so one to maybe keep an eye on just to see output. The 2 that I'm looking at, where are they? We're going down a fair bit here. Josh Worrell versus Dan Houston. Dan Houston stands to make me a little bit more money with the downgrade because he's only 431,000. He has scored back-to-back 100-plus games, 113 average. The only issue I've got with Houston, and I actually did say at the start of the year too, that Josh Dacos was tipped to potentially get midfield minutes this year, which we haven't seen because they've obviously had some defensive woes with the loss of Moore and the loss of Howe. But Moore and Howe are due to be coming back this week, next week. So Dacos could get some exposure in the midfield with those players coming back. But what's concerning is all these kick-ins that Houston is now taking might get lost to Jeremy Howe, because when Jeremy Howe was in the team last year, Houston was taking less kick-ins because that was Howe's role. He'd take those kicks. I don't know whether Fly would get stuck into them and say that Houston's been the one doing it, let's keep it on him. I don't know whether Howe just stands up and takes the role himself. So choose Houston at your behest, knowing that there's going to be players coming back in that could push him out of the role that he's currently playing. I would love to see his role with Howe and Moore in the team before making the punt. He has potential to finish as a top 10 defender this year. 100%. And could very well, in a couple of weeks, be an upgrade option for myself if he can keep the role that he is currently playing with Howe and Moore actively in that setup. But I'm going to dodge him for now, and I am going to bring in who's a bit more expensive. I mean, we're saving 50k by going a Houston, but I'm bringing in Josh Worrell. I love how this guy goes about it. He absolutely swallows intercept marks all day, every day, so he's going to get points for intercept marking, contested marking. Adelaide like to run the ball backwards and laterally, so he's going to get some a clean disposal, which is going to benefit him SuperCoach wise as well. He's avoided a calf injury, so he's fit and good to go. Averaging 119. He's coming up against Collingwood this... no, he's got Geelong this week. GWS have Collingwood, I think. Adelaide coming up against Geelong. He could pop off here if they can shut down Jeremy Cameron in a certain way and allow Worrell to clean up with those intercept marks. I am backing him for another 100-plus game. If he scores sub 100, I'm still happy to have him because I feel, again, he will be a top 10 defender as well. Just playing the long game here, I'm doing a downgrade instead of an upgrade because I need money for next week. And for the player that I'm going to get rid of versus the player I'm going to get in next week, if Worrell doesn't score his average, the player that I'm bringing in will more than make up for the fact. So I'm playing a little bit longer. Even though it's a week difference, I'm playing long game here with my moves. What we're doing now is we are moving Sam Grill to defense, and we are moving Christian Petracca into the midfield, because Petracca, via the moves I'm making, will become Marcus Bontempelli next week. Simple as that. Now, as for the players I am bringing in, I was going to bring in Milan Murdoch, but he is now out for a period of time, potentially up until round 10, they were saying. I need to turn off defenders. Thank you, because he has done a hamstring, which is such poor timing, because out of the 2 games, he's averaging 101. He was due to get forward DPP as well. He was a lock for me this week, but unfortunately, now is not the case. We are going to bring in Jack Watkins. The write-up here says, Watkins was good again this week, and with Rozee's injury, he is now likely to stay in, even with Wines returning. Happy to take him. I mean, he's only averaging the 59, but the role is there for him to play, which means he's going to continuously score us points. And again, bottoming Sharp out to somebody like a Watkins gives me more money to spend. He's definitely scoring better than what Sharp was anyway, so I'm happy to make that move. A player that I'm keeping an eye on for next week is Christopher Skerry. He debuted for Fremantle last week, scored a 73. Now, he plays Richmond this week. He could score another 70 to 80 odd. Hayden Young is still a potential 3 to 5 weeks away with his hamstring awareness, so Skerry could be one worth downgrading too. If he plays well enough in those 5 weeks, it might be hard for him to get dropped. And with rookies hard to come by, a low priced rookie that's getting solid scores could be the way to go. But again, with how these players are dropping like flies, is it worth bringing him in? It's a double-edged sword. The other player I'm bringing in this role up forward, it's going to give me a mid-forward swap, one I don't have. We need to look a little bit further up. We need to... before we get there, somebody I'm keeping an eye on is Mikelty Lafau. Now, some people might think I'm fucking wild and crazy for thinking that, but Toby Nankervis has just done a hamstring. He's going to be gone for, I think it's 6 to 10 weeks. Tom Lynch is going to be gone for about 5 to 8 weeks. So we've got a role in the forward line and a role in the ruck. Mikelty Lafau was ruck relief last week for Nankervis while playing up forward. So he could potentially be one to keep an eye on. Only 0.2% owned. Might not be one you play on the ground every week, but could be a little moneymaker to splash around, especially when we've got players like Kalani White for Melbourne still to debut, and he's still bottom out price as well. So I'm keeping an eye actively on players like that. I'm glad I dodged a bullet with Latrell only getting the 13. The player we are bringing in this week is Braden Cook. Now, it says here, Cook couldn't back up last week's big outing as things were a little bit tighter against the Dogs, but he still posted a score that means he has a great break-even that will see him a heavy trade in this week. Only scored a 62. Prior to that, he scored a 90-odd. Now, I'm happy to bring him in there for a couple of reasons. One, it finally gives me a mid-forward swap again in my midfield because I'm getting rid of Petracca next week. Lombard should probably count his lucky days that I did the defensive swap and I've done it how I've done here, because Cook was essentially going to be a sideways for Lombard. But again, as I said, Lombard, and I'm going to bring up some stats in a minute that kind of back up what I'm trying to do here. Lombard, I think, could be gone for me next week. And I'm going to quickly bring up what I've written down here to read out to you guys at home. I've got a couple of breakdowns in the way of break-evens and money that's going to be made. So Jack Watkins this week, He's 99,000. He will go up by roughly around 43,000 depending on his score this week. He's then looking at a potential rise of 27,000 for his second rise, and his third rise is set to be about 3,000. So we're looking in about 3 weeks' time. Watkins is going to be sitting on about 173,000, just shy of 100k earned, which I think is great turnaround for somebody in his role. Braden Cook, currently at 158,000. He's due to rise about 49,000 after this round. He's then looking at 16,000 and then 5,000, dependent on his break even at the time and how he performs. His output will rise to 228,000, which is, again, great when it comes to the turnaround to bottom out and upgrade somebody. This is where things get interesting. Jack Carroll in the midfield. He's currently at 159,000 off of his one price rise. His next two, he's set to rise 39,000, then he's got the buy, and then 76,000. So he's looking about 193. So he's currently got another 40k to make roughly now, 30k, 40k. After that, I'm not entirely sure about movements. Leo Lombard is where things get interesting. He's got the buy this week. He's then at his current average and break even ticked off to get about 10 grand. And then he's set to lose $200. Now, $200 isn't big by any means, but the fact that he's only price rising once more and we've got a negative, we've got a deficit, means we have to potentially look at moving Lombard on earlier than expected, which is why I'm heavily contemplating Skerry as a move. Now, if Skerry loses his role within Fremantle's team, it gives me a captain's loophole, at the very least. And Mateus Philippou potentially gets midfield DPP, depending on how he plays the next couple of rounds. Currently sitting at 185. He's only looking off of his break-even and average right now to make 2,500 and then 6,500. So he's only moving the chains by about 10 grand. So again, unless he starts moving in a bigger way, he's starting to plateau with his money earning as well. So over the next few weeks, Philippou and Lombard need to be on your consideration if you've got them to potentially move them on. But my trades this week, as you can see on screen, Connor Rozee, Josh Lindsay, and Sharp all out. I'm bringing in Worrell, Cook, and Watkins. Happy to lock that trade in. Now, that leaves me with 107,000 in the kitty. With a trade down from Lombard to a Skerry, that instantly takes Christian Petracca to Marcus Bontempelli, because Bontempelli has the bye this week, and he is not going to shift in his pricing at all. All I am doing here is making sure we put everybody on the board that we need on the board. We'll whack the emergency on Watkins. Grill comes on the ground for Jarks. We don't have anything else, unfortunately, there. McAndrew's score will cover that, but Brisbane is back, so what we will do is we will put ZZ Top on the ground for English. Philippou comes on the ground for Buderick, and everyone else is scoring. So looking at obviously it's best 18, so we're looking at output here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. We've still got 21 players. We've actually worked the buys out incredibly well. I'm very happy. Again, we bring in Worrell this week, which still gives us 3 essentially premium defenders. Getting Miller back on the ground after his bye and then upgrading Bont gives me already 6 premium midfielders. We still then have Jarga Smith who can score week in, week out like one of those. So we're looking good in the midfield. We're not looking to have to upgrade unless it's out of injury or like, you know, sprinkling a luxury trade. The forward line, obviously, we need to cook something up a little bit more, but hopefully Cook, with his role, I mean, Dan Curtin is still 8 to 10 weeks away, so we've still got a solid amount of time for Cook to play this wing role and earn the money that he's got to get. As I said, Marshall and Robertson, especially Robertson could be a keeper. Todd Marshall, if the role is there, could be a keeper in your F6. Buderick, role dependent, whether he can keep up the 80 average. But I'm happy this week. I don't know what we're doing for vice captains or captains yet, so let's see. Who's North Melbourne playing? Essendon. I am leaving the captaincy on Tristan Sherry. Oh, do we vice captain him? No, I don't think so. I was contemplating here looking at probably Zach Butters against West Coast. I don't know whether there'll be a potential tag there. Collingwood against GWS. They don't have anybody tagging at the moment. GWS has been giving up a lot in the way of allowing midfielders to do shit they shouldn't do. So him here could be actually a very good option. The one that I was originally wanting to get was Luke Jackson. I just couldn't do it this week because he's taking on a Richmond that doesn't have a ruck line. So Luke Jackson's going to go big, which breaks my fucking heart. It truly does. I think we leave the captaincy on Cherry against Essendon. He should score 150. He should score 150. So I'm happy to leave it on him here. The only thing I'm thinking is that's on a Saturday. Then we have the that's Saturday night. Then we have the Sunday, and I can still loop Dirksen. So what I'm going to do, actually, yeah, Dirksen's the last game. So I'm going to put Dirksen on the field, right? I am going to vice-captain Cherry, and I'm going to captain Butters. I think that's the best move here. Butters against West Coast, and good old Cherry against Essendon. Now, we can have a look here at their outputs. Cherry versus North, career stats. I don't have gold, so it's not going to show me, is it? You son of a bitch. At any rate, he scored 128 against Port. He scored 199 against West Coast. He has to go big against Essendon. There is no way. And Butters, having a look at the opposition he's taken on, he only scored the 94 against North, and then he's gotten the 135 against Essendon. So coming up against West Coast, I'd back him in for a 120. Unless he gets heavily tagged. And even then, I mean, Davies Uniacke just scored 118, 124 for Sheasel, so there wasn't much attention put into North Melbourne midfielders, so I don't know whether they pay any mind into Zach Butters. I just don't know. But aside from that, I don't know who else you could really look at here. Again, Nick Dacos as a potential vice-captain against GWS could be the go. If you wanted to go really out there, maybe a Dane Zorko against St Kilda could be a way as well. Luke Jackson against Fremantle is definitely a vice-captain option if you've got him. Cherry, if you've got him, you just slam it down. And for Melbourne, maybe Max Gawn. But again, Pitnet's been holding his own, so I don't know. But that is it for me this week, ladies and gentlemen. Do hope you guys enjoyed. If you do want to join the league that I've set up for SuperCoach, it is linked in the description down below. Follow the links, join, it is free to do so. And if you want to get on board the tipping competition I've got, you can do the same by finding the link in the description as well. Do leave a like on the video if you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What trades are you doing this week? Are you holding on to a Petracca or a Rozee to make moves later on? Are you moving them both on? Who are you bringing in? Who are you considering? I would love to talk about it. And hit that subscribe button as well to join the community we are building here. I love making content for you all, and I appreciate you guys turning out to support what I do. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here, and as always, I will catch you guys next time.